The Twilight series. Did the books or movies do it better? Let's start with the differences between our favorite vampires from the page to the screen. First up, we have our protagonist, Bella Swan, played by Kristen Stewart. In the books, she has a very pale complexion with long, straight, dark brown hair. She has brown eyes that are large and widely spaced. In the movies, she more or less matches that description, except her hair is quite wavy instead of straight. Next up, we have Edward Cullen, played by Robert Pattinson. In the books, he is described as being a creature of unspeakable beauty. His skin is extremely white, and his hair is always messy and a bronze color. In the movies, Pattinson's physical similarities to the character are strikingly similar. The only difference is in terms of clothing, as Edward in the books is known for always wearing a light-colored leather jacket, whereas in the movies, that's not the case. Another important character is the werewolf, Jacob Black, portrayed by Taylor Lautner. In the books, he is described as a very tall, attractive Native American, and in the movies, Lautner is not of Native descent. He is also much shorter than the 6'7" height description in the books. Charlie Swan, Bella's father, played by Billy Burke, is another important character. In the movies, he has a mustache and straight hair, whereas in the books, he has no mustache and his hair is very curly. Overall, however, his character is portrayed in the movies correctly, and they display his introverted and kind-hearted personality as he is in the books to a T. Next is Carlisle Cullen, played by Peter Facinelli. In the books, he is described as looking 23, and although he isn't, he has blonde hair. He is also described as showing a certain world-weary appearance. In the movies, he looks considerably older, and there are no signs of weariness in his looks or in his expressions. Elizabeth Reeser plays Esme Cullen, Carlisle's wife, and the mother to Edward. In the books, she is described as slender but with a rounded figure and beautiful caramel-colored hair. In the movie, she has that calm beauty about her, however, her face is more square-shaped than round. And we also have to talk about Renesmee, Bella and Edward's child, played by Mackenzie Foy in the last movie. In the books, she has brown eyes and bronze-colored hair like her father. Her skin is warm and glows when exposed to the skin. In the movies, however, things took a different turn. In fact, she doesn't look anything like her book description because of a result of mixing the real actress's likeness with special effects. Now, let's talk about the biggest story changes between the book and the film adaptations. One of the major changes is how Bella tells Edward she knows he's a vampire. In the books, she tells him while she is in the car with him on the way back to Forks from Port Angeles. The revelation occurs after he comes to her rescue to pull her away from a group of strangers who have crowded around her in the city. In the first Twilight movie, they are standing in the middle of the forest together when Bella puts two and two together about her crush's secret identity. Edward famously says, "Say it out loud," and she stands in front of him and responds, "Vampire." Another major change is how Edward proposes to Bella. In the books, he proposes to Bella at the end of New Moon after the Cullens vote to turn her into a vampire. In the movie, it ends on a cliffhanger where Edward finally agrees to turn her into a vampire, but only if she will marry him. This specific scene is preceded by a more formal proposal in Eclipse, where Edward offers Bella his mother's ring and promises to love her every moment forever. Let's also talk about the iconic Cullen crest that appears starting in the first movie. The symbol involves a roaring lion standing over three clovers and an open hand above its head. This crest, though, was not in the books at all. It was just a costume department creation to create a unique look for the vampire family's aesthetic and show their loyalty to each other, and probably sell some merchandise. We also have to talk about Bella's friends, Jessica, Angela, Mike, and Eric. Bella's human friends play a much bigger role in the books than they do in the movies. Although Edward is always at the top of her mind, she has several major character arcs with her friends that the adaptations completely cut out. In the movies, we do see her friends like Jessica, played by Anna Kendrick, but only for a few moments. The movie also emphasizes that Bella is more of a loner type than the social type that the author, Stephenie Meyer, wrote in the books. And with Alice Cullen, Edward's sister of sorts, a lot of her backstory is removed from the movies. Throughout the books, fans are introduced to a lot of the Cullen family lore, including how each member became a vampire and then refused to feed on human blood after meeting the family founder, Carlisle. In Eclipse, the movie has several flashback sequences that do show us scenes featuring Rosalie and Emmett Cullen, but the movie cuts out the majority of Alice's backstory, including how her abilities work and her romance with Jasper. And speaking of backstories, Edward's early vampire years are largely absent from the movies. In the books, it is mentioned how Edward had a rebellious period in the 20s where he became a vigilante of sorts and used his mind-reading abilities to take down the worst people around him. The movie for Eclipse mentions this, but a lot more of his background was cut out in favor of developing his relationship with Bella and bringing that front and center. And we need to talk about the ending. The famous final battle in Breaking Dawn Part 2 was added to the movie and does not exist in the books. In the shocking battle that is bloody and filled with high stakes for all of the characters, the audience ends up finding out that it's just one of Alice's horrible visions and none of it actually happened. It ended up being underwhelming as it strayed from the books, and although it was very fun and cinematic, it just didn't really work. Now let's talk about what the movies got right and what they got wrong. One of the strengths of the movies is how faithful they remain to the books. Many fantasy movies will alter the source material to suit moviegoers. With its cringy lines, the Twilight movies sometimes miss the mark with some details and plot lines, but they still delivered by focusing and being faithful to what worked so well in the novels. Specifically, each movie stays true to Stephenie Meyer's vision of a gothic forbidden romance by making the central relationship between Bella and Edward appealing and believable, even within a fantasy world where supernatural beings exist. And besides being faithful, another strength is the cast that brings these characters to life in such memorable ways. The movie series continues to be popular with people, and it's not just for the over-the-top plot lines or cliched romance. It's for the amazing cast lineup. Way before Robert Pattinson charmed fans as Batman, he was a teen heartthrob thanks to Twilight. Kristen Stewart is now an indie film darling, but before that, she was highly respected by moviegoers for her turn as the troubled and relatable Bella Swan. Even the supporting cast gave impressive and memorable performances, and these were by future stars like Anna Kendrick, Rami Malek, Dakota Fanning, and Michael Sheen, just to name a few. However, as much as the series has its strengths, it also had a few weaknesses too. One major weakness of these adaptations is that we don't get to see a lot of Bella and Edward's romance, as it's described in the books. A lot of the special moments in the relationship were simply cut out of the film, like in the first book, before they're even together or friendly with each other. They're doing this blood test in the science class, and Edward skips that day for obvious reasons. Bella is afraid of blood and passes out, so Mike walks her to the nurse, but Edward finds them and carries her to the nurse's office instead. It's such a good scene, but it was cut completely out of the script for the first film. And a lot of the fans' criticism about Bella and Edward's relationship, calling it toxic, is because we don't get to see their connection build up over time like we did in the books. And it kind of becomes obsessive. Thankfully, Robert and Kristen's chemistry is so good that they can sell this relationship to us. Which brings me to another weakness of the adaptation. So many of the characters' characterizations from the books are cut down significantly, or they're focused on just one or two traits instead of how it is in the books. For example, with Arrow, in the movies, he is made to seem a lot more manic than he is in the books. He is on the brink of insanity because he has to keep on living and seeing others pass before him. But in the books, he is a lot more sophisticated with a strong sense of self, even as he manages a huge group of people for a millennium. Movies have to be visually entertaining, so it's understandable why they focus on one or two traits, but it still takes away from why fans of the books love these characters in the first place. Alright, so which one wins, the books or the movies? For me, the movies win. They really bring to life Stephenie Meyer's world in such a detailed and captivating way that holds viewers' attention. Even if you're not necessarily a fan of the story, the action sequences and the romantic elements are bound to keep you entertained and capture your imagination. But what do you think? Did the adaptations do the books justice, or are you just going to stick with the books? Let me know down in the comments because I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and I will see you next time right here on Collider.